Ben,
Hey,
you're on the podcast. Congratulations.
I'm on the
You did it
podcast.
twice
Awesome.
now. This is the second time. Yeah.
So that means I'm famous now.
Yeah, but this time it's just us girls.
Oh, yes.
So the way that I intend to do these is to touch base like at least once a month or something like that with someone from like Call of Saregnar, and then I think we'll put this thing out like to Damian's Patreon first. You know,
Yeah, sounds
that
good.
way they get their like dev update, but then I'll just release it as part of the podcast as well.
Yeah,
So
cool.
it's like I'll have to figure it out. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. So you're sound design man, and
Yeah.
I obviously we met through Call of Saregnar, but you also are working on Stellar Valkyrie now, which we were talking about earlier. How you just kind of like slid in.
Yeah.
What a disgusting sound that is. And
Let me make that even more disgusting in post.
yes, it's. And then after that, I found out that you were working on, is it Skywind?
Skywind, yeah. The Morrowind adaptation. It's a mod for Skyrim, but at this point it basically is like a massive multi-year project that I don't think you can even call it a mod. It's more like a total conversion, because you can't get it on the Xbox store because it's too big. It's like, I think, over 15 gigabytes now. So it's, yeah. I've been there a couple of years, at first as a sound designer and later on as the team lead for the sound design team.
Yeah.
And we made some really cool stuff there, yeah.
Well, let's start off with just kind of you and your background, and then we'll work our way forward throughout your career, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
Your career.
Air quotes.
So when did you kind of develop this fascination with noises?
Yeah, the fun thing is I always thought that I would be making music, and I was always into music, into a lot of music, like all the genres, like jazz, metal, classic, rap, just techno, everything. And I sought out every different thing that I could find. Like, it began with stuff like Radiohead, which by now is more popular, but back then it was like the strange music that the strange kid listened to. And then the really experimental techno stuff and everything I could find. And at one point in my life, it just switched, and I was just thinking, man, I love music so much. Why don't I make something? Just like try to make music, try to get into mixing, music making, whatever. And I bought a DAW, Ableton Live, which I still use today, Ableton Crew, and a MIDI controller, and I started making beats. And then I decided I wanted the beats to not sound like shit. So, yeah, I paid for 1 year of, it was called Professional Audio Engineer study. So it was like learning how to mix and master, learning like the basics of sound design. And while I was doing that, I was really getting into all the intricacies of sound, and not so the music itself, like the mixing phase, the EQing, what compression does, all the strange stuff. And I found out that I spent more time on just tuning my bass drum or making like the totally intricate snare and percussion sounds than the music itself. And yeah, that's when I started to look into sound design, and there's like nothing out there. There's almost nothing out there. I mean, nowadays there's a couple of people maybe on Instagram and some on YouTube, but it's like very rare. It's no real material as far as I'm aware of. And then I just started trying stuff, buying stuff, and got really into microphones because, in my day job, I'm a programmer, so lots of sitting around in front of the computer. So I wanted to get out, and Foley or recording out in nature was like the total opposite of that. So I bought a recorder and some microphones, and then I got deeper into the whole microphone hole, and that's a deep rabbit hole. Yeah, I hadn't even considered how deep that one goes. So yeah, and that's that's where I started. I found out I love just going out in nature, trying different microphones for different sounds, trying to find stuff that you can't hear with your ears, like with contact microphones or underwater microphones. There are so many different strange microphones where you can record electricity or, vibrations that you don't hear. Yeah, it's just a whole world out there. And then I focused on that and started with some small stuff. Got early on into Skywind as a sound designer with my reel of samples back then, which was just like thunderstorms recorded and something else that I just found here and there. And that was enough to get me started. And and there it's like a big team. I think the sound design team must be 20 to 30 people, depending on the time. It's like people are coming and going, but there are AAA people out there that are really like doing this for 10 or 20 years and just wanting to do a fun project on the side. So I could learn a lot and we could chat back and forth and work together on stuff. And that's where it really started. It was like 4 or 5 years ago now. And then I just kept on going. Yeah.
So does the networking, I guess, like, is kind of the payment for working on a project like that? Obviously there's the satisfaction of delivering a really cool product, but like, it's an entirely volunteer force, right?
Yeah, for Skywind it's completely non-commercial, and it has to be because of the Elder Scrolls. It's like we don't have the rights to it, so we can't sell it, but they tolerate us. So you can make it, but you have to be non-commercial, and it got so out of scope early on, and I think the whole team is like 300 people or 400. If you count like the voice actors, it goes up to 800 people, which is just for a non-commercial fan project that sounds like crazy. But early on, there were a lot of people that took this really seriously into heart and just doing that and nothing else except their main jobs. And they try to manage it all and delegate it all. And it's a really working system. I mean, the only problem is you don't really know when it's done, because if you suddenly don't have like 3D artists, then the whole pipeline is stuck because you're waiting on models. So you can do cool stuff, but essentially the game doesn't progress that much. So you have to always find volunteers. And that's always that's always the public image. It's like, Skywind is never going to be finished, and they just want more people. But the reality is, it's like an organic project with just a core team of maybe 10, 15 people staying the same, and the others are maybe coming for one quick job and then leaving, or for 1 month or for 1 year. And so you have to train those people, you have to get them onto the whole system, onto the tasks. And it's a lot of overhead, but it progresses steady. So
it works that way in any game studio, really. Like, people come and go, change, and it's, you hire someone to do one thing and then they leave, or whatever.
Absolutely. It's like the same thing, but just stretched, because sometimes you have people that are on 6 months, but do basically 3 hours of work. And that's fine. I mean, they all do it for free, but you can't really plan like, this month we're going to get this and this done. So we tried to plan stuff. I left the project a couple of months ago, but you can just aim for stuff and hope you get the best. So, but in the 3 years or so I was there, I saw a lot of progress and a lot of people with ideas that just picked the tasks up and went with it. So amazing team.
I don't know why Bethesda wouldn't do the same thing Valve did with like Black Mesa, and like, hey, here's a budget, and then put it on Steam, and then we'll take a cut. Like, it wouldn't be that big a deal. And
many
people
just
don't have to. They don't have to.
Many people ask that. Why don't you go to public, or why don't you ask Bethesda or something like that? But I think the project in the end would be better off if it would not happen, because at this point, I mean, we were doing such crazy stuff. I think I was telling you last time, we did like 300 or 400 sounds for footsteps alone. And that can't happen on a budget, because that's just, I mean, it can happen on a really massive budget, but that was just one tiny part of the puzzle. And we just did that because basically we wanted to do that, and we put the time in. And for that kind of stuff, you need people like running free to an extent. So
Yeah, I remember with Bridgeburner working on Age of Hell, I was like, well, why don't you make it, a commercial product? And he was like, because so many different people have contributed to it over time, and when we started it, we didn't really intend for it to be what it is. So it's like there's no way to go back and keep track of everything that you should have been keeping track of if you were doing something like on a legal basis. And yeah, I mean, but it's cool. I mean, like you're making a lot of cool, you're getting a lot of experience, first of all, and you're meeting a lot of really interesting people. And one day they're going to need a guy, and you might be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I have people now that I know as well. I have voice actors I know and programmers I know that are really good and that I know can do some amazing stuff. So if there's ever an opening, I know who to talk to. So yeah. And the other thing is, it's like, we have people from all over the world. I talk to people from, I think, Iraq, and people from Africa, and people from Australia and New Zealand, and getting contracts for all of those people, I guess that would be a real pain. And and revenue distribution. I mean, the core team would have to have revenue distribution of some point, but what is the core team really? I mean, that's all questions. I'm glad they don't have to get into that. So,
and ultimately, like, it'd be really nice to make a lot of money off of it, but at the same time, like, you have all this freedom to kind of make what you want out of passion. And then, like, if Bethesda were to put their hands on it, then they may then start making demands. Or
absolutely. We all wanted to make the game we wanted to play ourselves, and while I was on the team, that was also my intention. I wanted that stuff that I liked in there. So a small example is is the waterfall sounds, for example. It sounds really stupid, but if you really pay attention to waterfall sounds in games, especially in first-person games, they are way, way too quiet. Waterfalls don't sound like that. I mean, in Skyrim, if you're in that one town, I don't remember the name anymore, where it has that big-ass waterfall on the side and you can talk to NPCs. In real life, if you have like a 20, 30-meter high waterfall, like 50 meters away, you can't talk to anyone because it's just roaring. And that always irked me when I played this. Even back when I wasn't doing sound design, when I played these games, sometimes I would listen to sounds and it was like, just, that doesn't sound right. I mean, I understand it from a gameplay perspective, but I'm really keen on immersion. So that's why for Skywind, for example, we turned that way up, way up. So you can hear waterfall from very far away. So if you know the area, basically, you can orient yourself by sound also. And that was a big part of me. And I don't think in a commercial project that would be something you could get through, because you have to open it up to the masses and everyone should be happy, and fuck that.
No, it's awesome, man. So like your fascination with sound though is fascinating to me, I guess. Like because I don't really consider myself much of an audiophile. Like I have a really good ear for what I think sounds good. I mean, I also am a musician, and I have very specific things that I like a guitar to sound like. And it's frustrating. I was actually the guy that I was hanging out with yesterday. He's also a guitar player, but he's primarily an acoustic guitar player. But he can play. I mean, he can play electric, but he just has no idea what all these knobs do. It's hilarious to me. Because I grew up on that, and I'm like, no, you got to like, if you want that Metallica sound, you got to turn the mid off and just crank the treble and like put the bass pretty high up there, and you want that scoops like chugging sound, and that I get, but I don't have this obsession that you have for like very specific little details.
I really have that obsession.
Yeah, I mean, can you point to anything in particular that like is there a time in your childhood where you became aware of that, or was it just just like you explained earlier, just through trying to make your own music sounds?
No, I think it was really through music. If I think back, I don't know. I always liked when a song came on that was different. I mean, the first time I was hearing Radiohead, I was just blown away. I was just like, that's kind of music, but sometimes the song just breaks down into chaos or something, or there's like no vocals for a minute in the middle of the song, which is like, I don't know, I've never heard this before. And then I got into like FX Twin, or I don't know if you know the whole side of the experimental electro stuff. There's so much like texture in there, and feeling and emotions just through sounds and silence and modulation, for example, which is a whole part. I mean, you can hear it if you're in a disco dancing all night and the music sounds the same for 4 hours, but it gradually changes. If you're really a fan of techno and if you can really like let yourself go to it, for an outsider that doesn't listen to this music and just like listens to the live set, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the same beat. Sometimes it's a bit different, but I guess it's just 4 hours of ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. But if you're really in it and like feel the vibrations from a big sound system and have like the modulations in sound, I guess that always fascinated me, even as I was like partying at 18 or something. So I think maybe the fascination came from music and from not the music itself, but the sounds, I guess. Yeah. The soundscape rather than, yeah.
No, that's really, I mean, there's everyone's different, but somebody's got to be you. Otherwise we wouldn't have competent sound designers on video game projects, I guess. But no, it is bizarre. Like I remember, because we both kind of grew up during like the Napster live wire era of people just getting free MP3s off the internet.
Yeah.
And when I didn't really understand this until honestly years later. Like I knew it was a thing, but I didn't until I really started podcasting and like mixing all my own stuff. The concept of like MP3 wave FLAC, like, and I know people who like, I refuse to listen to any music that's not like either on a vinyl record or a FLAC file because and to me, I'm just, I don't fucking care. I don't hear the difference.
I can show it to you.
I know what it is. Like I understand conceptually what it is, but like I'm perfectly fine with just some headphones and loud ass music streaming off of Spotify. Whereas I know some people are like, I can't listen to this. And honestly, like if it gets to the point where you can't enjoy music anymore, if it's not like, it's as if you were like a sex fiend or something. And it's like, you can't just do a finger anymore. You got to have the whole fist in there. Now, this is outrageous.
Yeah. The thing is just, I know exactly what you mean because at the beginning of this journey, I was the same. I was like, hey, a good MP3 is totally fine. But now the difference is you got to have at least a bit of trained ears. Mm-hmm. So trained ears can also mean you listen to music on really, really good headphones and a really good system. But if you have a certain kind of experience with listening to music, and you have a certain kind, and that is very important, of good headphones and a good amp. That is also, I mean, you can have great headphones and just plug it into your phone, which, I've seen people do this and I don't get it. But then you can hear the difference, and then you can, the problem is once you've understood it, as like you hear an example of like two versions of the song, of two like short sounds, and you hear like the graininess or like the distortion, whatever you may call it, the artifacts, you can't unhear it. And then you understand it's not like you can't enjoy any music anymore. I mean, I enjoy music in my car, I enjoy music just playing on the phone, that's totally fine. But when I put on my good headphones and listen to a really good mix on a good amp, and that might be a really great MP3, but most of the time it's not. It's most of the time is a wave or a FLAC. Mm-hmm. Then you have something more to it. It's more like, I don't know. Sometimes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's like those really rare moments in music, and they happen a lot more often if you have a great system and a great sound. So, yeah. I mean,
like, I don't need a vinyl of an album that was recorded digitally, if that makes sense.
No.
You know, like,
totally not. That's the whole fetish of it. I mean, I understand that, and I understand the vinyl craze, because you have to pick out your record, you put it on, the whole ritual of it is nice, but the sound quality is the sound quality, and the FLAC sounds like a vinyl. A vinyl sounds a bit different, but that's because the vinyl sounds different. You mix differently for vinyl. I mean, I made an album, and my mix for the download is another mix and mastering as for the vinyl version, because it just works differently. You can't mix it the same. That's just the way it is.
Right.
And yeah,
if I put on like Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy on my, like, I have it on vinyl record, I can absolutely hear the difference between that and when I just stream it on the internet. But I mean, I don't want to necessarily pay $10,000 to hear my favorite song all the time. Like, that's just, and I know some people, like, if you have that kind of money, like, go with the fuck ahead. Like, be decadent if you want. But it's just, it's so much to think about. And as you said earlier, with people who like buy really nice headphones and then stick them in their phone, I mean, the information that you, it's easy for you because you're obsessed with it anyway, right? Like, and we both are that way about different things. Like, you get into these like nitty gritty little details, and like, but most people just want to, like, they don't even, they think they hear the difference, and that's all they need. It's a placebo effect. It's like, I went out and I bought myself a really nice pair of headphones because I want to improve my music listening, and then they're done, and then they're satisfied, happy customers.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's like a small percentage of people that really hear the difference. Just like there's with everything else. Like, there are people that see more colors, and there are so many different people. But to be honest, for me at least, I can get the best sounding stuff for under $1,000. That's totally my deal. And I tried the more expensive stuff, and I tried to really be objective about it, and I can't hear the difference. I totally can't.
Wine.
Yeah, it's a bit like wine, but there is a massive difference, in my opinion, if you have like great headphones and just stick it into your laptop or into your computer, or you have like an amp. If you get an amp, and that can be an amp for like $80. One of the good ones, like $80-$100 is totally fine, and like $100 to $200 of headphones, and I'm very much positive that everyone can hear the difference, because you suddenly, especially if you have like open headphones, I have open headphones on right now. If you have really great mixed sound, you can really read room. You know where the musical instruments are. You can feel movement. That's like, I mean, just crazy. And not even talking about binaural stuff, because binaural is just magic. The first time I hear the binaural sound was like the classic someone knocking at your door.
Yeah.
And it was knocking behind me to the right, and I was turning my head and instantly getting goosebumps like all over me, because there was no door, and I knew there was no door, but it was perfectly placed, just like someone was knocking on a door behind me. And to this day, I can listen to this sound, and I know it's not real, but it irks me. It's, you can't do anything about it. So sound has so much power if it's clear, that that's a bit of my goal. My perfect dream project would be a VR game, a horror VR game where I could really go nuts with this stuff. One day, man.
Yeah, it is amazing though how immersive it really can be. Like, this happened to me recently where I was listening. I think it was the second Ulver album, and there's a song that is like a thunderstorm playing in it, and I was sitting there listening to the song and fully believed that it was storming outside, because I didn't realize it was coming from my headphones, and it was
absolutely
so incredible. And then at some point I was like, oh man, I probably should go like check and make sure nothing's blowing away out there. And then I just like open the window and it's bright and sunny outside. I'm like, what the fuck? And I take the headphones off.
Some sounds are easier to make real than others. Like a thunderstorm, for example. If you have a good recording, it's really easy to, if it fits your environment. That's the other thing. That's what most people don't realize. If you have like a for example, if you have a sample for a roaring fire, just like a roaring fire, then everyone else would be, nice, I have a fire sample. I can put this in my game everywhere there's fire. But even if it would be like a fireplace, if you don't have like a clear recording of it in a like soundless room where you can apply reverb, then you have a fireplace sound in a specific room. And if it doesn't fit, then even if you don't realize it, you somehow feel it's kind of lacking. You go through games. Some of those, I think, indie games or like medium budget games have this, where you go through the levels and you feel like it's nice, but something is missing. And oftentimes I feel that's sound design, because either sounds don't fit each other or don't fit in the environment, and then the immersion is broken, because you might not consciously think about it, but your brain really realized that something is wrong, but you can't put your finger on it if you're not obsessed with it. So yeah, there's so much value to that. And you also can feel this with older games. If you have like a really old game that still holds up, it probably has pretty good sound, because even way back when the graphics were not as expressive, if the sound was good, it sucked you in. I mean, the rest had to be good. The story and stuff had to be good as well. But if the sound was bad, then it never could get you as deep in as it does. That's always the case, yeah.
That's pretty analogous to Saregnar as well. It's still got this very retro aesthetic and everything, but because of all the extra fluff that you and Tony bring to the table, it's like this, wow, what an incredible thing. And that is true.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
How many little indie projects like what we're doing have like a real orchestra playing their theme song? Like, that's just bizarre to me. And then the work that you guys all do is, I'm so proud to like even be part of it. But can you give like examples of some of the things that you do for Saregnar specifically that are like analogous to what you're talking about in terms of making it explicitly and even more immersive than perhaps your average indie game in a similar genre? Good God, I suck at talking today. Would be.
We can all fix this in post. Just send it to me. No, I will cut this up to like 5 minutes of real talk. No, with Call of Saregnar, I saw the project on Twitter, and just to give you some kind of background, I think you know the story already, but and I just wrote Damien, hey, do you have a sound guy for this? Because it's just right up my alley. It's 90s. That's the games I grew up with, and I feel it really has to nail the sound as well. And yeah, we got to talking, and I got onto the game, and my goal from the beginning was to make it retro sounding, but also real recordings, which sounds a bit silly, but yeah. What I want is that if you don't really pay attention to it, you hear retro sounds, but it feels high definition. And that's why I go out with 2 microphones, if I can. If not, I have to resample in the studio, but I have like a microphone that sounds really tinny, 50 sound, which gives it this like lo-fi, back in the 90s, where you didn't have as much resolution sound, and also a really new and high quality recording sound. And I mix those two together and try to find the sweet spot where it sounds retro, but if you like just flow through the level, it gives you this kind of realism that normal modern RPGs give it. And that's my goal with it. And it's really, sometimes it's really a challenge, but I want to do every single sound. I got out and got real bird sounds and made them like retro. But if you're a sound guy, I hope you can hear the difference between those normal lo-fi samples and the good recordings I did, because I feel it has that certain edge to it that I haven't heard anywhere else. And I want to make the whole sound language of Call of Saregnar that perfect blend between retro sound and immersive high definition sound. That's my goal with it.
It's really amazing to me how many projects, I'm going to say this a lot about Call of Saregnar, but like where every person involved completely, totally agrees with like the initial idea of what it is. Like everyone's like totally on board with the design principle. And I think the key design principle of this game is that we're taking the idea of what, like the nostalgia of, or really specifically Damian's nostalgia of Betrayal at Krondor, and it's still going to feel that way, and it still does feel that way, but it's so much more accessible to modern gamers. And without even, because it's not like you sat down and had like a discussion with Damian. We're like, this is how I want to do the audio for. I know that you did at some point, but I mean, that you already had that idea. Like you knew what you wanted to do. And Tony is exactly the same. I was like, I know exactly what I want to do with the way that this music is going to sound. And even if you're looking at the artwork, like Damian has sent me, like he's got the retro looking one and then he's got the really clean one. And the mixture of both is actually the sweet spot where you have that very retro feel, but you still have that very, very, very like awesome modern take on the same thing. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think we just found the perfect team. I mean, as far as I understood, that Damien found Tony more or less the same than me, just like looking for composer, and they just got along really, really well. And now we all three go along really well, and now we four go along really well with you. So yeah, it's just, I think we have the same goal in mind, because we might have seen a lot of projects in the past that didn't get it. Because when I think back of all the remasters and remakes I've seen, I feel they are mostly are just those that just upscale everything, just make the graphics high definition, keep the polygons the same, so it looks like the old one but better. And then if you really look at it, it mostly doesn't work. For example, for Silent Hill 2, I guess. Yeah, Silent Hill 2 was the one. They did a high definition remaster, and now the fog is gone. So it feels like a shitty PlayStation game and not like a immersive, there's fog everywhere. It's really creepy kind of environment to me. When I saw the footage first, I thought it was like a tech demo. So yeah, that's, I think, because we all want exactly that. We want that image of the old game, that feeling of the old game. We want to recreate this, and I think we are on a really good path. So far, every time I boot it up, it feels amazing. Tony's music is just chills up my spine, especially, as you mentioned already, the orchestra recording is just marvelous. And yeah, running around in there, seeing the sights, hearing my sounds, I think it just all fits together. And yeah, I hope people can appreciate it the same way we do. But I think they can, because it really is a work of art. It's an amazing project.
I think I sent this to Tony, but not like I didn't post it anywhere, but it's like a recording of me and I played the sound, like the theme song to Saregnar on a 12-string guitar. So to kind of like, I'm not going to go get a lute or anything, but he legitimately was like, oh my God, did you find a lute? And I was like, no, it's just 12-string guitar. But like that's like, I was sitting there listening to the song and I'm just like, there are so many orchestral soundtracks to, especially to games and movies, but that are basically just unrecognizable crap. It's just like, okay, well, there's some classical music because it's supposed to be there, obviously. And then there are these songs that just, they hook into you. They really capture your soul. Like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, or like most of what John Williams does, like that kind of stuff is like, it's not just noise in the background. Like you're like, it's like immersive in it. When you hear it that this is what this is. And that's a very difficult thing for most people to capture. But I mean, fuck, Tony is amazing.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
That's the first time that I heard it, I was just like, this is exactly what it's supposed to be. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, it just nails it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, with the really, I think you can feel it with the passion projects. Where I also felt it was with the Skyrim soundtrack back then, because they got the whole choir. What a weird word for German. The whole choir, the whole group of men to sing.
Chorus. Is that easier for you to say?
That is way easier, man. I should study more pronunciation. Anyway, they got the whole chorus in there, and it felt really powerful. The recording was really powerful. The concept was really fitting, and every time I booted it up, the theme song was like just great. It just stuck to me, and it was like, yeah, this is the Nordic man choir, and it hooks into you. The same thing with the Doom soundtrack back then. I watched a lot of behind the scenes material because, of course, the whole sound design of Doom was just crazy. I mean, I learned so much just watching the behind the scenes and listening to what he did on there. And I mean, for the guitar sound, he mixed guitar sounds and chainsaw sounds and melted them together. That's why the guitars sound like weapons. And for me, it was just brilliance. But yeah, to have that kind of devotion, that makes something really stand out. And the Doom soundtrack, to me, still now is like a really great metal album, just like back in the day where it was just metal songs. I mean, yeah, amazing. And for Doom Eternal, they did like a heavy metal screaming chorus with like, I think 12 or 15 vocalists that could scream and growl, and they made a chorus out of that. That was just, amazing craftsmanship. And if people are really committed and like into what they're doing, then the end project, I think you can always see that, yeah. And with Tony, Tony is always full on board. If he makes something he's really into, he really just chips away at it until it's perfect. That's Tony.
I think in order to get great art, you have to have. I mean, passion is obviously like the main ingredient. And when you end up with these giant budget projects where there's like a million different cooks in the kitchen, that kind of thing, it may be that the guy that you hire to write your orchestral soundtrack is just like, okay, just another day in the office. I'll go in, I'll write a song, shit it out, and they don't know what they want anyway. And then you that's what you get.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, with Tony, it's like that he's working on every single track as if it's going to be his legacy, which is possibly unnecessary, but it really translates into a really like special experience, and it's great art. And that's at least on my end, that's what's important to me. That's why I just generally love small or independent games, or even film, music, whatever. Like I like small things that are just like, I'd rather it not even sound that great and just I know that it's a work of passion than it to be like, have you seen Some Kind of Monster?
Not yet, no.
Oh, so it's like a documentary about Metallica.
Yeah, I heard it, but didn't see it yet.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you kind of realize that they're no longer in touch with just being a bunch of guys in a band anymore. They're essentially like, they're a business, they're a franchise, and they're like, we got to make this album, and then they can't work together because like James is like on drugs and drunk all day, and their bass player quits, and then they're just like, I don't know who we are anymore. It's like, get back in touch with it. It's a really good documentary, but I mean, that personal touch is everything, and that's what this game is, a personal touch to me.
Yeah, to me as well.
Reaches out and tickles me right in that fancy little place that always gets me going.
I'm so glad we can tickle you.
We had a bunch of new sounds that you did for it recently, I think, that were implemented, but very subtle things. Like you'll go out and like specifically look for different bird sounds for the different environments.
Yeah, last time it was like the specific waterfall.
Like
I drove like 40 minutes, but I mean, I made it a family trip. So my wife and kid, they walked on ahead, and I would stay at the waterfall for like half an hour and just record sounds.
Yeah. Dad's got his microphone out. Let's leave him alone.
No, I mean, it was the trip was from the beginning. Like, I want to record this. Do you want to come with and just take a walk? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can couple that. That is really nice. And that is really what I like about Foley. I mean, most of the time I go alone, especially because if I want to record something really delicate, like bird sounds, for example, no one can like stand next to me and rustle with like the jacket or something, and that's just if you have the headphones on the first time and listen to like a microphone where it's not filtered, because your ears filter a lot, but the microphone doesn't filter anything. So the first time I recorded, I was listening back to my recordings, and I was really proud. I was like, I nailed it. I recorded so much good stuff. And then at home I listened to it, and I heard the plane, and I heard the birds, and I heard people in the background talking, and I was like, what the fuck? So you really got to get like an experience to how to listen to specific things and how to not tune out everything else, which you're used to, which is really annoying. But yeah, most of the time I'm alone out there. But this time, because of the waterfall, I mean, the waterfall is loud and roaring, so that was fine. They just went ahead for a couple of minutes and then I could record. But yeah, I look for specific things because Call of Saregnar is so dear to my heart, and because I wanted to fit, because that is, as I told you before, that is something that always irked me while playing games. When I was just standing there and the door was being opened and it sounded like metal, but it was a wood door, for example. That was something where I would like to just punch the designer in the face. And now I know it probably was a guy that was just getting paid and just had like, yeah, get this sample library and put this stuff in. We don't have a lot of budget. I understand that, but it really, I can't do that. I mean, if I don't have the sound, I either go out and record it, or if I can't, for example, for big explosion sounds, my wife won't let me explode something like in our yard, and probably the police would show up. So for the stuff that I can't record, I get really specialized libraries from, there are a lot of companies out there that do really crazy stuff. And everything else, or the bulk of the things, I really want to go out there and find. And that's like that's the drive, and that's like my motivation. Like, okay, yeah, I need a waterfall sound. Let's just look on Google Maps, what's in the area, look at the pictures. That could sound good. Sometimes I even find some shitty video on YouTube from someone with this smartphone, which is nice because then I can hear how it could sound. And I can scout it before. But yeah, that's really, like, that's part of the fun for me. So not every sound designer does this. There are a lot of people that more the technical side of it, like taking sounds and combining them, making something new out of it. I like that too, but I like the recording stuff better. So
it just makes more sense for this game anyway, because it is a very, I mean, I tried to talk Damian into like, let's change the name of the game to like, let's take all the story out, and it's just a game where you just walk through retro looking forest for miles, and that's it. And honestly, I think there's probably a lot of money in that if we decided to do it. But
I mean, maybe a couple of years ago, like when the walking simulators weren't as big, maybe a couple of years ago, it would be a real hit. But now they are like a lot of walking simulators.
No, I'm just joshing, but it is really cool that you do that, and it makes perfect sense for the product that you're making, because it needs to have that really immersive, like natural feeling. I talked to Michael Markey, who is doing the sound design for Viscera Fest, but it's like that game is like in space and shit, so like it should have all these bizarre, weird, unnatural sounds, and there's an art to that. And I know that you're capable of doing the same thing because you're doing it for Valkyrie as well. but even Valkyrie has like this sort of similar thing where it's like, yes, there's a lot of weird spacey stuff, but ultimately it's like every environment, every level is this different sort of environment, like this different sort of natural place. So like the first level, when people get a hold of it, is like this like cave, and I'd say like Yellowstone National Park inspired area. And so before you came along, I was sitting here like, how do I get a recording of a geyser and then make that sound half decent? And then keeping in mind that it is an alien world, I was also thinking about like, well, so the birds aren't going to sound like birds on Earth, or whatever noises you hear, like it's not going to be crickets, it's going to be some alien cricket. So what I did was I took a forest recording. I'm not sure how much you hated it when you got a hold of it, but I literally flipped it backwards and like phased it to try to make it sound like alien nature.
I hear what you did to it, so I didn't hate it, but I totally understood where you were coming from, and that's also for Stellar Valkyrie, that's also kind of my idea, and that's why it's a bit easier to make sounds for it, or I'm a bit quicker, because I can go a bit wild, I can make sounds a bit funny, but still, for like the water footsteps, for example, I think you remember, I would go out there with flippers and walk around in puddles because I really liked that specific sound, and I could look for hours or like fabricate one, but for me personally, it's more fun and easier to drive 5 minutes to a puddle and record them. And that's why they sound pretty much like you would expect them to sound.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, let's take it a step further and let's like blast off into outer space with this idea, literally. So if you account for the size of the planet, its gravity, and the density of its atmosphere, everything should inherently sound completely bizarre and different than what our ears are used to. And there has to be, obviously, it has to be something that's relatable, and people can't just we want to make a funny, zany first-person shooter, and it's not an immersive sim, but you could go that far with it if you really wanted to. I'm glad that it's you and not me, though, because I'm not as detail-oriented as you are in any way. I'm a very, like, get the job done, okay, move on, kind of.
Yeah, that's also very needed. I mean, you need some kind of guidance for people that are just going wild with it. You need some kind of restrictions or guidelines to keep the people motivated and like experiment in a context they can play with. Then the best stuff happens. Because if you have like all the freedom in the world, if you have like like I had at the beginning, I had a DAW and I bought all those fancy synths and all those fancy sounds. And then I was just like, okay, let's make some music. I have 5,600 kicks to choose from. Let's just go through them all. Yeah, that doesn't work. You need some kind of, there's always some kind of restriction you need to work in to make it work. But yeah, the thing you were talking about, I was also, funny enough, thinking about it, I think yesterday or the day before, that I'm not happy yet with the ambient sounds. But I want to make that as my last task if when all the other tasks are done. But I want to make it a bit more unnatural, strange, and a bit more funny and funky. Because just like you said, if you're starting to think about it, and I hope that if players are thinking about it and then recognizing, hey, we thought about that too, that they like get a chuckle out of it. So if you really think about it, if the atmosphere is different, then voices would sound different, birds would sound different. Maybe birds wouldn't even have that kind of like, sounds producing, or we can make a lot of fun stuff with that. And I have some ideas in the back of my head, but that's like for the next iteration. Post.
So like with all the different projects that you're working on, do you find it easy to like compartmentalize like what each thing needs, or do you sort of ever get into like this is my Skywind zone, and then that drifts into a different thing that you're working on, or vice versa?
I think right now I'm only doing Valkyrie and Call of Saregnar, which are two, I would say, different beasts, and the sounds I'm recording with the special microphones for Call of Saregnar are unique to it and will stay unique to it, so I can't reuse it anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to compartmentalize, but with Skywind it always was a bit of a juggling act to like squeeze some time in here and there, especially because I was like team lead and had to onboard new people, interview new people, give them test assignments and stuff. So that's why I left the project a while ago, to concentrate on the stuff I have going on now. So I would say right now, because I just have the two projects, it's really easy. I think if I had 3 or 4, I couldn't do it the way I do it now, which is basically in my spare time, because I have a full-time job still. So yeah. But so far it works pretty good. I mean, I have my lists and I have my like thoughts on each project, and I make some small notes on sounds I want to make and what I want them to do, and everything else is just coming out when I do them. So very spontaneous.
So like, I guess it's like is there a specific mindset is what I'm asking for? Like, when do you tune into a particular wavelength of thought about a different project? Because I kind of do that, where like I have to be in the mood to work on something. I don't know how to word that and make it sound like it makes sense.
Totally. I mean, especially with those two projects, if I'm doing Call of Saregnar, I need a lot of time, because either I have to go out and record something, or I have to really fine-tune stuff. And I mean, the recording sessions, even in my studio, are way more calm. I did like sounds for for the journal. So like page turning, making a book going up and open a book up and closing it down and something like that. And those have to be soft and more like, yeah, I mean, good feeling. As with Stellar Valkyrie, the last time I did sounds, I think the last time I did the RoboDog sounds, which was just frantically barking into a microphone, just having fun, having a drink, making it sound like a RoboDog, mixing real barks with my barks, and yeah, just going full on nuts. And yeah, that was definitely something I did while not being totally sober and while just having a lot of fun. And yeah, it totally is a different mindset. You're right. I never thought about it, but it's really that I do work on the project when I have my time slots the way I feel that day. So yeah, sometimes I do a couple of days just Call of Saregnar. Sometimes I just do Stellar, and yeah, I have some small side projects. So sometimes I do some music or something like that. But most of the time, it depends on my mood. Yeah, right.
I'm sort of dealing with that now because, you know, I've just had a major career change and I'm used to like, okay, I've gotten off work now and I sit down to do in the keep shit. And now I'm always in that mood, that zone when I go to work on in the keep stuff. So I'm like, okay, I got to hit the ground running, get shit done, do this, do that, do that. And I'm like, I find all of that fun, which is strange because most people hate administrative duty or anything like that. But
yeah,
I don't really like the administrative paperwork part of it. I like the directing work and the funneling people into, you know, different scenarios that ultimately end up in productivity. That is great for me. But now that I've like kind of doing the same thing all day long, I wake up in the morning and the last thing that I really can think about is like game design. I'm just like, ugh. I need like 2 hours of coffee. just it's like sit here and like figure out what I'm going to start with, because that's the other thing is like having complete freedom about the order in which I do things is not what I'm used to, which is fine, but I'll now get used to it over time. It's just bizarre. And so like
it takes some adjusting.
Yeah. But when I talk to really creative people who sort of do that all the time, I'm always curious, like, how do you get yourself there? Like, how do you put yourself in the correct headspace? Or does it just kind of happen naturally and you just harness it when it comes?
Yeah, I think for me, because I have like just these, I would say, small windows or sometimes planned dates, like this Sunday we're going to the waterfall, that it's really easy for me to compartmentalize. If I would do this full time all day, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure I would make some kind of rough schedule to make my day a bit more structured. I mean, at my day job right now, I get like the same thing. I have like tasks that I need to do, but I don't really have an order. And for many of them, I don't really have a deadline. It's just like trying to get projects to go forward, trying to get processes, trying to get like people on board, people together. And I think it's, sometimes I feel like doing that. Sometimes I feel like doing this. I let my feeling guide me, and so far it worked out pretty good. I mean, if I have a shit day, I just make a couple of hours less. If I have a good day, I make a couple of hours more. So yeah, if at the end of the day I'm productive, that's fine for my company. So that suits me really well. I had to adjust a bit, because in my like the first and second and third job I had, it was always like this. Yeah, you have to be here 8 hours, and if you don't feel like it, then you just have to be here 8 hours, and then you go home, even if you did nothing. And that always made me feel like shit, because I was not being productive. I was getting paid for it, which I hate, because if I sit somewhere and maybe 4 of the 8 hours I do basically nothing because I just can't bring myself to be motivated by anything, and I still get paid, and I can't just go home, it's really demotivating to me. I think that's a personality thing. Some people need that kind of rigid structure. Some people don't. For me, I've learned, especially with the pandemic and the home office and free time, that's when I also also quit my job and started at another place, which is really, really free flowing. It's like basically just tell us when you're not here, and otherwise do whatever you want. And that really suits me. I'm supposed to work 7 hours a day, and I work 7 to 9 hours per day, depending on my mood. So yeah, at the end, if I'm having a shit day, I'm just calling it quits at lunch and taking a walk with my daughter or something, having a good time. And on the next day, I'm full of energy again, and that motivates me, because it can, like, the work can adhere to my schedule. So yeah, I think it will take some adjusting when you go from like a very rigid schedule to a very open schedule. But if you find out that it's for you, you'll probably be very happy with that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely for me. I'm just, I've been doing the same thing for years, and it's just so ingrained in me. It's like, wake up, go to work, be there for 8 hours, and these are your things. Like through the day, you already know what it's going to be. It's a very trained environment as opposed to a creative environment.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like free flow pretty much all day long. Like, here's your list of tasks for the next week or whatever. Get them done.
Yeah.
Okay. And my problem is that, like, I think I'm supposed to work 40 hours a week. I know that's what I'm being paid for. But if I knock it all out in like 3 days, and what do I do now? I got to find a way to make myself busy.
Yeah.
And I mean, the instinct is to be like, oh, well, I could do whatever I want now. I could go work on whatever. But like, I just have to have time to adjust to this new situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool that you have that freedom now. And I guess the natural question is like, so is your wife, like, does she understand this drunk guy in her basement barking into a microphone in the middle of the night? Is that like, or is that just like okay, all right, you do your thing?
Okay, first of all, we don't have a basement.
Well, whatever.
No, I mean, the cool thing is we have like a separate room for work. So the flat and the work room is like totally separate. So when I do my thing, it's not imposing on anyone. And mostly when I have to record quiet stuff, I have to do it at the evening or nights, because otherwise kids are running around, people are screaming on the street, something like that. Yeah. So it's not really like I'm doing weird stuff all day. But she's very supportive, and she sees that I'm creative and that I have fun and that I'm, like you said, like passionate about details, and she's happy that I found something that I really love. So it totally works out. The only thing she's jealous of is that she has to go into the office and I can work from home all day. So that's something we will have to fix.
Yeah, that's really good. It's good that you have like a supportive kind of network and stuff. And I hope that as your kid gets older, that I hope she inherits a lot of this from you.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, just the explorational nature. I mean, I always was a kid that went like deep into stuff and like read books like very intensely, and sometimes just my parents got me a new book and 2 hours later it's finished, I want another one. And I was just like really intensely focused on stuff that I was interested in, and different stuff. I mean, books and video games and just playing with stuff outside, making up games, making up stories, making up board games, whatever came to mind. So everything that was just like came to mind, I would just like go for it. And I hope she inherits that too, because I think that kind of free explorational nature, which is self-motivated, that's the key, I think. Like, you want to do it because you want to do it, not because you think you will get a good job or because you think society expects something of you to make like something out of wood or something. Just like, that's what I want to explore. Let's just look if I can make like a table or something, and then get the wood, get the materials, just try it, ask for help, just go for it. And if you realize that's not for you, then maybe try something else. That's totally fine. Just that it has to come from yourself. And I feel my parents were really supportive of me. Everything I started, they were like, yeah, sure, go for it. I mean, they didn't just buy me an expensive guitar or anything, but they supported me, and they looked for what I really wanted to do and tried to nudge me in that direction and tried to show me, hey, if that's what you want to do, why not do it? Just don't look to others. Don't care if anyone think it's stupid. Just go for it. And that, I hope I can give that to my daughter as well, so that she has the same creative freedom and doesn't feel like trapped in some kind of path.
Yeah, that's one aspect in which I was quite lucky, is that I think especially my mother was very, I wouldn't even say she was, I'm not saying she wasn't supportive, but it was not like that she was inherently like super supportive, like, oh, do whatever you want, you could be the president, that kind of thing. It was like, I think she accepted very early on that I was just not going to take no for an answer when I wanted to do something. Like if I really made up my mind, like this is what I want to do, that I was, there's no stopping that train. And that I definitely inherited that from my dad. Like just being really stubborn. But yeah, that led to, when I said, Mom, I would like a guitar for Christmas. She didn't, have any reason to doubt that I would learn how to play the guitar when I said that. And but then there's a million examples of things that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a karate master, and I'm not a karate master. So like, who knows?
Yeah, sure.
But I had to see it through. I had to try it. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's the problem with many people is the I can't do that attitude before they ever lift a finger to try something new. Yeah. Because I didn't know that I would be a sound designer, and I didn't know I would start this in my 30s. So it's not like I was a young guy with an open mind and like an open career path and just decided it. It was more like one day I realized I have to do something with music, and then I realized I like sound, and so I just went for where my feeling guided me, and it made me really happy. So
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of many people that I know and get along with who graduated high school, chose what they were going to do, went to college, got a job in that field, and then just did that for the rest of their life. They're all like, everyone that I know is like that, is like a nurse or maybe a firefighter, like a very specific path. I knew one guy in high school who wanted to be a sheriff. That's all I did, I've definitely like met a few people who ended up in the military, I guess, through that path, because they're like, I want to be in the army, and that is what I will do. But just not a lot. Like, most of the people that I get along with are creative people, and that inherently means like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to do a little bit of this and that and figure it out and flow through life like it's a river. And they all seem much happier than your regular 9-to-5 job person to me.
And I think a big part of that is the ability to let something go, because if you're stuck to a path and if you're stuck to a job and to a schedule, it's the same thing. Like if you buy something very expensive, it has to be good. Even if it's shit, try to spin it some way that it is good, because I've spent so much money and time on it. It has to be good. And the ability to, even after like a couple of years, just say, well, it's not for me. That ability, I think, is important, because people change all the time. People don't just get to be 18 or 21 and then they are adults, and then that's the same until they are dead. I mean, there's so much example of people in their 40s or 50s that are starting a whole new career path and starting a whole new company. And I think people that are deciding what they want to be and stick to it, that are a lot of them, not all maybe, but a lot of them are afraid of change, afraid of letting things go. And that hurts in a lot of areas of life. I mean, if something doesn't go to plan, they can cope with it, because it's just a tragedy. It's just everything is fucked. But life goes so many different ways and paths, and if you can be a bit more open, I mean, you don't have to be very free-flowing in the sense that you do something different every day and see nothing through. I mean, a bit of balance is nice, and a bit of that stubbornness, which I have as well, is nice, because then you can really go for something. But the ability to let go is very important, I think.
Yeah, I think those are very wise and mature words, honestly. Like, just the ability to let go is a lot, because like for those people who, let's say you go to college for 8 years to be a dentist, and you become a dentist and you decide you fucking hate it. But you're so invested. I mean, you're financially invested, your time invested. You're probably by that point have an expensive house and a car and a hot wife who spends a lot of your money, and kids running around who need things. And it's like, you can't give up the lifestyle that you've set a precedent for.
What you gonna do?
Yeah. So now you're just going to be a fucking dentist for the rest of your life. Sorry, bud. And it's like a prison. It's like a self-imposed prison.
Yeah.
One of my favorite wrestlers is actually Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who is a dentist, but decided that she wanted to be a pro wrestler and just like went and did that. So,
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
It's amazing when you hear someone say that they've had a complete change of career, you know, late in their life. It's amazing when you hear it. It's like, oh my God, that's incredible. But like, why does it have to be so incredible? Why can't it just be like, you know,
normal?
I just changed my path, like, because I felt like it. That's pretty brilliant, dude. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, do that, man.
Wise words. I'm gonna write a book of proverbs from Ben Reichstein.